Hi, my name is Peter Ambler. I'm the executive director and co-founder of the gun violence prevention organization Giffords. On January 8th, 2011, I was working for Gabby in Congress. It was a Saturday morning. I got the news that she had been shot. My colleague Gabe Zimmerman was murdered. 5 other people died. 19 people total were shot. It was an incredible tragedy. 2 years after that shooting, I joined with Gabby to launch the organization that is known as Giffords. We are on a mission to end gun violence. We work on the research, policy, and legislation of gun violence prevention. We advocate for safer gun laws by lobbying Congress, the administration, and state legislatures across the country. And we elevate gun safety as a voting issue, trying to shift the pernicious political calculus in favor of safer gun laws. We know that broad majorities of Americans support common sense gun safety reform, and that if people are voting on the question of whether or not somebody is a gun safety candidate or not, that they will choose the path of safety. I'm asked a lot, having launched an organization in the aftermath of the massacre at Newtown, having worked on the Mansion Toomey bill and seeing that go down in the filibuster. 10 years later, what makes this time different? Why 10 years after a similarly narrow proposal, the Mansion Toomey background checks bill, was filibustered? After months and months of wrangling, it only got four Republican senators to support it. That 10 years later, we see, in a matter of weeks after the tragic shooting in Uvalde, 10 or 11 Republican senators support a similarly narrow but impactful framework for gun safety. And the answer, of course, is the movement that we've built over the past decade. The millions of Americans that have come together who have said is enough to the gun lobby, to the lying, to the extremism, to the corruption, to the venality, and sought to join a movement that simply wants to make their kids and communities safer. It's projects like this, the People's Filibuster for Gun Safety, that are bringing key pressure that didn't exist before. It's the networks of gun owners, of doctors, of survivors, especially, and so many others across the country who are just frustrated and fed up and simply want to see their Congress respond, their Congress do something significant that will help save lives from gun violence. And that is fundamentally why we're here today. I'll end with, perhaps in this context, my most important qualification to speak about gun safety, and that's my role as a parent. There is these overwhelming sense that the adults in the room have failed our children, have failed the next generation. And in the case after Uvalde, you see politicians standing up and saying, it's not the guns, it's mental health. But it turns out the person saying that, Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, had just cut $200 million from the state's mental health budget. And then you have Ted Cruz standing up and saying, it's not the guns, there's just too many doors. It doesn't pass the smell test. It's not an explanation, it's a deflection. We know why we have gun violence in this country, and it's because each and every day we're running a natural experiment of what happens when you combine widespread civilian gun ownership and availability with limited and sometimes virtually non-existent gun laws. There are other countries in the world that have widespread civilian gun ownership, but none of those countries have similarly weak laws. And that's why we as a country have 25 times the rate of gun violence than our peer than our peer nations, other industrialized democratic countries around the world. And it's an abomination. And that's why parents are angry. That's why they're standing up and demanding action. That's why they're sitting down at their kitchen table every day and talking about this issue. And at the end of the day, that's why the politicians are scared, and that's why they're reacting, because they know that if they don't change the laws, that we are going to change the Congress. Thank you for this wonderful project, and I urge all of Americans to contact their senators, contact their members of Congress, contact everybody up and down the ballot, talk to every candidate for office, tell them your number one priority this election cycle, and right now, in this moment in history, is to protect your kids and your communities from the epidemic of gun violence. Thank you.